How many times have you been in rehab?
Several.
And what?
We didn't discuss this in the pre-interview.
No,
Just saying.
but
All right, the informant back in the building. So y'all can see that there's clearly a dark pattern going on with Lindsay Lohan, right? It seems like every time she sits down to do an interview, she's being humiliated or being put in an uncomfortable position. And that David Letterman interview, you could see that David Letterman is adamant about humiliating her, right? I don't know what happened behind the scenes. She even said that they had a great pre-interview, which is an interview that they do before the actual interview that's aired to the public. So he played nice, and then when the camera cuts on, he goes straight for the juggler. Now, we never know what oath some of these people in Hollywood break to now get their quote-unquote friends to turn on them. Because Lindsay Lohan said she has been on the David Letterman show numerous amount of times from when she was a young star to when she turned into an adult. So what changed? Maybe she said no to the wrong director or the wrong person that she did not know had a certain place of power in the industry. This David Letterman interview is uncomfortable, 100%. Lindsay Lohan even turns around and looks at the crowd as if she's surprised that they're laughing at her real life trauma that she went through. She went through Hollywood. For some reason, she took up, whether it was drugs or drinking, which David Letterman said she had a drinking issue. But it seems to be a pattern in Hollywood. When you are a young star, whether you grew up on Nickelodeon or Disney Channel, whatever, a lot of these people turn out to try to cope with themselves by doing drugs. Now, we don't know what type of dark stuff they saw or experienced in Hollywood, but we got so many examples from the Orlando Brown to the Raven Simone. You see how she looks right now. She looks not like Raven Simone, right? Amanda Bynes. So many of these stars that we all grew up watching, they just turned left. We would not think that this would be the outcome of Orlando Brown or Lindsay Lohan, because we thought our perception of them being on TV that life was perfect. But we don't know what these people was going through. Being on screen acting and putting on a show is very different from what these people reality everyday life is. And it kind of makes sense why these people have such unpredictable behaviors and turn to certain drugs or alcohol, because if you as a regular person, you're not allowed to get a job until you're like 15 or 16 years old to go into the workforce, right? What makes it different that a child could become an actor when they're in an environment filled with adults telling them what to do before their mind is even developed? So we shouldn't even be surprised that these people turn to different outlets to try to escape, because they've been working a long time, way before us. Because like I said, in the regular world, you can't get a job till you're like 16 years old. Some of these people has been acting since they was 4, 5, and 6 years old. So imagine them just consistently moving, especially in such a dark industry where it's so demanding. We don't know what else uncomfortable positions they've been put in. But imagine doing that since you was a youngin'. It's crazy. They had no time to grow up. They were just thrown in the fire, basically to grow up immediately. Now, that Anthony Anderson and Lindsay Lohan interview was 100% disturbing. It was uncomfortable to watch. Lindsay Lohan even made it clear to state her age and said, I'm illegal for older people. Like, this type of stuff, you can't make this up. To realize that these are the things that you have to go through in Hollywood. And I don't know if her parents is her manager, but there's other adults in a room and nobody thought to tell Anthony Anderson, he needs to relax. But that goes to show you the sick minds and the sick normalities that they have in Hollywood, that you could laugh at someone's pain as she's talking about she's going to rehab to try to fix herself. And then David Letterman jokingly says, well, how many times have you been to rehab? It doesn't matter how many times she went to rehab as long as she keeps trying to fix her problems. That's the most important part. And everything that David Letterman says, the crowd is laughing. Now, I don't know if there's someone holding up a cue card to the crowd to tell them when to laugh, because that's usually how these live interviews goes. But it's very distasteful. And it's clear that there's a pattern in Hollywood with these actors and actresses or singers and songwriters. Because even look at Britney Spears. She went bonkers. We don't know why she went that way. That wasn't normal to her. She just all of a sudden woke up and flipped one day. Probably was just tired of being controlled. Now, I know we all have had dreams and aspirations of becoming rich and famous, right? But we never thought about the freedom part of being rich and famous. You're not free. You can't walk to the store. You can't go pump your own gas. You can't be caught certain places by yourself. Is that really a great lifestyle? Because growing up in New York City, this was the great part, right? You walk around with people in New York City that's possibly billionaires, definitely millionaires, but you don't know them. You don't know what they do or how they got their money. They could walk to the store. They could go anywhere you could go. They take the subway with you every single day. And you don't know that they're rich or none of that. And I think that's the true freedom. When you could accumulate some wealth and nobody know who you are and how you got your money, that's real freedom to me. All this rich and famous stuff, it's like fame becomes a cage and a jail. You can't do what you want. You're locked up. You can't go and be a regular person without having security. And once you have security, people start giving you unnecessary attention. Is that real freedom? Not to me. Not at all. But I do think Lindsay Lohan carried herself very well during this interview. You could tell she was getting irritated. And we can't even say that Lindsay Lohan knew what she signed up for. Her parents signed her up. Man, Hollywood is a spooky place. The Informant. I'm out.